college football playoffs here. I assume the morning after the selection, you and McElroy go on radio down there in Birmingham, and you have to deal with an inundation of people that are airing their grievances about Alabama not getting in. And then there may have been some other people in the state happy Alabama's not in. I said on this show that based on the committee protocol, I probably think that SMU should have been in. So I didn't think Alabama necessarily got screwed. I have a hard time watching you lose by 3 scores to Oklahoma. And to me, one of the more egregious losses of the year, period, and then have a lot of complaint. However, I've heard you talk about this. I've certainly talked about it a lot. I've heard McElroy talk about this. I've heard many people have complaints about the format and about, conference champs being the only ones that can get auto bids and stuff like that and auto buys. So I'm going to let you take anywhere you want to with this. I'll give you my thoughts on the back end. But the current state of the structure of the playoff versus how you would like it to look is what?
I think I would like to see the 12 best teams in, because to me, that's what an actual tournament to, I guess, crown a national champion would be. I've never been one of just inclusion. Like we have to include this conference, this school, that school, just for the sake of doing it. I understand the greater good of college football, and I want to support that, and I want to help that. But I think we've seen now with the way that it's played out, and certain seeds are above teams that are obviously ranked ahead of them. That doesn't make sense to me, and that doesn't seem right. The unfortunate part about this is we're going to get to more auto bids, and we're going to have more of this frustration because we're going to have more teams that are probably ranked below the teams that they're seated above. And I don't know if there's a real right answer to, other than just saying, let's just rank them 1 through 12 and you're in. First and foremost, the conferences aren't going to let that happen, so it's not really worth talking about. You and I would love to see that. We're not getting to that. It's not going to go to that. It just isn't. But if it were up to me, I would want to see it play out that way. I do understand the people whose mindset is, well, you treat conferences like divisions, and then that's why they get auto bids or auto seeds, and they get a bye or they don't get a bye. The problem is, if you make the NFL comparison, technically NFL franchises are built even.
Yeah.
And the ones at the bottom are given advantages to catch the ones at the top. College football has not, does not, will not ever work that way. So to treat the Mountain West like the Big Ten, to treat the Big 12 like the SEC is somewhat nonsensical. Play it out. And whether you want to, the craziest thing to me, Josh, we were sitting in our meetings for Read and React in Charlotte on Monday afternoon, and there's 2 guys that are part of our show that are going on and on about how we need to bring the computers back. And it almost infuriated me, because the only thing I could think of was, do you not remember how mad Earth was letting computers judge our football teams? I mean, like, we literally thought John Connor was being chased down by robots, cyborgs, to take over college football. And now we want that back. And so I want to see the 12 best teams, and I want to see them all have a chance to win it. And then the cool part about it is we're always going to argue about 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, because some of us are going to think 15 should have gotten in. Others are going to think 11 should be out. Others are going to think 12 should be at 10. That has been the beauty of the sport for a long time. But we've gotten way out of whack with deserve in this sport and earn in this sport. And that's where I think people's vision is clouded, is they think certain teams have earned something when really and truly they've just perceptually done something that they think is better than another team, or that they deserve something that maybe they truly have not gone out and earned. And there's not always a perfect answer for that as to how to get those teams in. But if it were me, I would, because like Peter Burns was trying to convince me that we need to reseed these teams in studio Sunday when we were doing halftime of basketball. I'm not a big fan of reseeding. I never have been. Why not just choose the top 12 and then go from there and seed them 1 through 12 and have them play their way through, buys, no buys, whatever it is. So that would be my wish. It will never be granted. We are going to expand this. We are going to have more automatic bids. We're actually, you know what? We're probably going to have more automatic seeds, not even bids.
Sure.
We're going to have automatic seeds where it's not good enough to force your team in. we got to force our team into the top 8 or top 6, whatever that is. So that's coming too.
Do you see your screen right now? This is if we were to go strict 12 best teams, there's no auto bid whatsoever. This is actually what the playoff would have looked like. We would have had Arizona State at Notre Dame, Boise at Indiana, Bama at Ohio State, SMU at Tennessee. Your buys are Penn State, Oregon, Texas, Georgia. That right there is a playoff that includes many of the teams that were already in. I think one of the notable exceptions is Clemson goes and wins the ACC, but because they had already lost a quarter of their games and frankly weren't an overly special team this year, they just don't get a stay of execution. Here's an automatic card to get you in the door just because they won their conference. And notice, even if we were to go with the proposal that you just suggested, and by the way, I'm on board with, SMU's still in this thing. They lost the conference title game. They're still in this thing. Huh. Interesting.
And by the way, an interesting matchup for Tennessee there. Take the over in that game.
Whew.
Bama, Ohio State, very interesting matchup where I think one of the biggest impact players in that game would be a former Alabama player.
Yeah.
Boise, Indiana, I think would be an absolute rock fight. Arizona State could give Notre Dame fits because I don't think their perimeter speed defensively could be able to keep up with that. That's a fun playoff right there. And Oregon is where they deserve to be. Georgia's where they deserve to be. Texas, I think people would probably have some issue with and maybe want to argue about that, whether it be Notre Dame or Indiana, whatever, and that would be fine. But is that any less exciting than what we have?
No, I'll tell you, I'm watching this from Eugene, Oregon, and I'm going, hold up a second, because I'm thinking about my current draw and who I'd have to go through to win it all. And then here, the cluster of teams is I'd play the winner of Indiana and Boise, and then I'll face either Arizona State, Notre Dame, or a Penn State team I already beat fairly convincingly in the Big Ten championship game. Like, I out-roster all of these teams fairly significantly, as opposed to sitting there waiting for the winner of Tennessee, Ohio State. And also, sir, before we move on here, have you considered, if I'm right, let's just say we get my matchup in the national title game. We get Texas, Georgia. What if Texas beats them? How is that received nationally? We see a third matchup.
A tournament, Josh.
Yeah, we see a third matchup, and they've played once in that. They played once in that building already this year.
Doesn't matter. This is the one that matters. This is the national championship game. So that's why you would get that giant gold muffler.
I've got a quote in my hand.
By the way, and I know Lanning answered it the right way, and that's why he's incredible, because he always has the right answers for things, and saying that it's an opportunity and not a difficult task or whatever. He knows how to play that game, and it was a perfect answer. But when you look at their draw, you have to sit there and think to yourself, that's the number 1 overall seed's draw?
Yep. It's only fair.
I mean, I look at it for either Tennessee. Well, I think Tennessee.
Rough.
Or Ohio State, either one. You look at that and just say,
rough.
That's the path?
Rough.
Okay.
That is having to beat 4. If you're them, you've got to beat one or the other. Then you got to go probably take down Oregon. Then you probably got to take down Texas. And then you probably got to take down whoever, a Georgia or a Notre Dame. That's brutality. That's utter brutality.